Megatron has, how shall we say, departed, I nominate myself as the new leader!
Wait! The Constructicons form Devastator, the most powerful robot! We should rule!
Soundwave superior, Constructicons inferior.
Who are you calling inferior? Nobody would follow an uncharismatic bore like you!
Hey, nobody calls Soundwave uncharismatic! Yeah, let's kick tailgate!
40 years ago, Hasbro partnered with Takara Tomy to bring Takara's Diaclone and Microchange line to America under the brand name Transformers. And it was an immediate hit. Today, to celebrate the 40 years of Transformers, I'm going to be reviewing the technically two G1 figures I have. My favorite Transformer of all time, Soundwave.
Activate pile drivers. Operation Tidal Wave.
So here is an original 1983, not 4, 3, Soundwave figure. And if you want to know how I got 1983, well, let me just, right, and there the copyright info, Hasbro 1983. So, as I mentioned, Soundwave is my favorite Transformer of all time. And there's no particular reason for it. So, when I found this guy at a 80s, a retro 80s shop for $200, I bought this figure for $200. But he was 100% complete. Except for his Minicon. I had to buy that separate. Given that that I could only have one, I went with Laserbeak, the red one, even though this figure originally came with the gold one, Buzzsaw. Now, Soundwave was immensely popular back in the 80s because of his tape deck gimmick. Not to mention his unique monotone voice provided by Frank Welker. And, his unique alt mode that Hasbro has kind of started refusing to update. Even though, in the year 2024, it is extremely obsolete. That doesn't mean I don't love this figure to death. I truly do. Because this figure is 40 years old, and not to mention used, he's kind of loose and floppy. But that does not hinder my enjoyment of this figure, as I bought this figure because it was G1 Soundwave. So, let's get into some of the details. Most of these details are stickers that have held up really well for being 40 years old. Now, as you can also see, there are some stickers that came with this figure but are not applied. Like the red stripes on his arms and his guns. And then just look at that head sculpt. That is pure G1 goodness. With, his head inspiring the Decepticon emblem. You can't not... Sorry about that. But again, this figure is the G1 figure. This figure was on toy store shelves from 1983 to 1987. And now, it is a G1 toy. You don't buy this for the articulation. Even back then, you didn't buy this for the articulation. That being said, he was still really well articulated for the time, with a rotating head that can also look up due to transformation, shoulders that can go all the way around, 360, and a backwards butterfly joint because of the gimmick. Elbows. That is not something you see on a lot of G1 figures. And you can get a, leg kicking upward pose out of him. And he does have a wrong way knee. Okay, now, we are going to set Soundwave off to the side for a moment, so we can look at Laserbeak. Now, like I said, Laserbeak was not the original figure that came with Soundwave, which sounds unreasonable by today's standards because we all know Laserbeak is Soundwave's standard, pack-in figure. But back then, it was actually the yellow Buzzsaw, not the red Laserbeak. And, he's a really nice little, figure. Stickers are starting to wear off, but this is 41 years old, so what can you do? So, yeah. Now, I am going to do a comparison really quick of G1 Laserbeak with, if I can get him out of Soundwave's chest, the Masterpiece version. Now, if you notice, these two tapes are virtually the same exact size. Meaning, yes, you can take I've been misinformed. You cannot put the G1 or the Masterpiece tapes into G1 Soundwave, but you can take the G1 tape and put it inside your Masterpiece Soundwave. That's pretty cool. Like that's pretty cool. Alright, now let's get into robot mode. So, this is a G1 figure, it is really simple. However, I do not have the weapons that would plug into right here, because used. And I only bought the Soundwave figure completely intact and complete. So, one thing you're going to want to do is you're going to come back here and, kind of open the wings a little bit. So they don't get away when you bring the feet down like this. Go ahead and spread out the wings a little bit more. Come right here. Pull the head forward. And you got a little laser beak. That's really cool. Like, this is the Gen 1 Laserbeak. He looks really good for being 40 years old. Now let me get this Laserbeak into Condor mode, so we can check out how well this design has evolved. As you can see, the G1 one is quite a bit bigger to a point. The midsection is about the same, but the wingspan is a lot bigger. But then again, this toy didn't have to do what this one does. They are, this is pure show model. This was its own thing back in the day. Because Soundwave started out life as the micro-change cassette man. So, these didn't have to conform to what would come after. But yeah, and you got some nice, techie detailing on the wings. Underneath, you can, basically just see cassette right here. And, black under the wings, which Hasbro wouldn't... Yeah, they'd probably still leave this black, but they wouldn't leave it plain like this today. But 40 years, so... Yeah, and that nice gold eye. Ah, this thing's so cool. And this entire red section is die-cast. You would not get that in a toy today. Like, you would not get, you know, this amount of die cast in this thing. So, which is really freaking cool. So, let's go ahead and actually return Laserbeak to tape mode. Because we're bringing Soundwave back in. Now, before we get on to Soundwave's tape recorder mode, let's do some comparisons, shall we? So let me unpose Nightshade here, so we can, you know, get a little bit of a sense of scale. So yeah, he's bigger than the Earthspark Nightshade. He's not small. He turns into an accurately sized tape recorder. And let's compare him against Battletrap. So as you can see, he's about a little bit taller, actually, than modern Voyager class scale. Technically, that's not 100% fair, because this guy is a taller Voyager, but still. He is, you know, about current day Voyager scale. Now, let's compare the original Soundwave to the perfected Soundwave, Masterpiece Soundwave. Yeah. These guys are, you know, they're both really cool. I love having both of these in my collection. I'm very blessed to have a G1 Soundwave that still has this tape door. And even though this is a knockoff of the Masterpiece one, I'm still blessed to have it in my collection. But yeah, that is the past. Technically still the past, but more recent. Wow. That's about 25-30 years of engineering differences between G1 and Masterpiece. If you want even more, you know, difference, you'd pick up the Robot Paradise RPO1 acoustic wave. I'm never going to be able to afford it, so I got a knockoff of the official Masterpiece one. And my dog just ran by. So, yeah. Now, setting the Masterpiece one off to the side, let's get to transforming. Now, you're going to want to remove Soundwave's gun, which is really cool, especially for G1. You're going to want to push this button, remove this piece, and set it off to the side. That's just how G1 worked. You're going to want to collapse this into his battery. You're going to want to remove his shoulder cannon. Come to the back of the figure. Actually, let's wait. Alright, so what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to rotate Soundwave's head and then push it back, like this. Then you're going to want to close up his fists, make sure his arms are straight, grab the shoulder, pull it out slightly so you can bring the arm back. Pull it out slightly so you can bring it back, push it back in. You're going to want to flip up his die-cast feet. Yes, his feet are also die-cast. Yeah, you're going to want to flip them up. Rotate his legs like this. Bring them up. And then push them in like that. Bring that up, push it in like that. Take these sections, bring them up, and tab them into place. And finishing touches, pull out his battery cover, take his weapons, and pop them in, like you would an actual tape recorder. Then take this back panel, and then there you have Generation 1 Soundwave in his tape deck mode. Holy shit. Yeah. It's a box, but this was what Walkmans and tape decks looked like back in the day. So yeah, he's pretty accurate. And he also has his rub symbol. Oh look, he's a Decepticon, who knew? But yeah, he is, you know, he is, as this says, a stereo micro cassette recorder. You know, he's not bad. He does have some gimmicks in this mode. A spinning volume button, a working on-off switch, and then of course the main one, the opening tape door, which, can you even see the detail in there? That's a lot of actual tape deck detailing in there. And slide the slot. Are his wings not? His wings aren't collapsed all the way, okay. Drop the cassette in there. And then boom. Oh my lord, that is really good. Buzzsaw. Not Buzzsaw. This Reek's in there upside down, isn't he? Yeah, he's upside down. But yeah, so there you have him. Look at this dude. Ah, he's so cool. And you even have the record and stop. The buttons do nothing in this mode, but still really cool. Now, for comparison, here we have the G1 Soundwave with an owl, or a Earthspark Nightshade. Now, why are you being a bitch and not standing? Okay. Now, I would compare him against this guy in vehicle mode, but I didn't feel like transforming him. So here is Battle Trap in robot mode next to him. Yeah. Completely out of scale there. And finally, here we have the Masterpiece one in his tape deck mode. They look good together. They do. Obviously, the Masterpiece one is a little bit bigger. Because, well, it's the Masterpiece one. It does lose some of the details, like the record and stop buttons and the rec bat light, or text right here, and the stereo micro cassette recorder right here. But that could just be down to the fact that I bought a knockoff. I don't remember if the original had this or not. But you also do get some new details with this one. Like the actual fast forward and rewind, or rewind and fast forward button symbols on these buttons, which these ones do work. They both have the button that actually says play. This one has the record and stop buttons molded on, like the symbols molded onto the buttons. Come to the side. Wrong side. This one just has the power switch. This one has the power switch and a fuck ton of other shit meant to try and modernize him. Same on this side. You have the volume things and a ton of like SD card ports and shit. On the back, they're very similar because they transform very similarly. This is just a little slightly more complex version of this. The basics are still there, rotating the legs, folding them up, bringing the arms back, flipping the head in. The basics are still there because these are the same character. And they transform into the same thing. So, the basics are still there. And of course, you have the tape gimmick on both. But yeah. You know, this one actually has a headphone jack. But yeah, I mean, they're similar but different. You know, this is just a perfected, version of what this could have been. And what the show turned this into. I'm hoping that we get a missing link version of this figure. That would be amazing. Because this figure already pulls off the transformation without having to remove any of the pieces, minus the missile and the gun. Which, the Masterpiece version is, which they could just borrow the engineering from the Masterpiece version's gun. Because, oh look, no parts forming required, and it does basically the same thing, only this now slides into the gun. So they could do that, and then just, give him modern joints. Redo his knees so that way they can bend right, and then give him a waist joint. That is basically all they would need to do to, modernize this figure. Well, not modernize its articulation. And, you can do this. Which, the Masterpiece one can do as well. I find that kind of funny. But still, this is a good figure. It's strong, sturdy, and even 40 years later, it doesn't feel like anything's gonna break on this figure. The same can't be said for this thing, or this thing. These feel like they're holding up, because they just came out like a year ago. But I don't think they're gonna stand the test of time. This thing, possibly because it's a knockoff, technically already has not stood the test of time because of this latch. This latch broke and I had to super glue it back on. But again, that could just be down to the fact this is a knockoff. And also the chrome's starting to wear off. Because I use this as a fidget. But still, this is really good. And has held up 41 years later. I'm impressed with how well this has held up. Other than, the gold chrome starting to wear away, you would not be able to tell that this figure came out in 1983. You would think it was one of the reissues. Were it not for, the gold around here being the way it is. Yeah. So, that has been my look at the Transformers More Than Meets the Eye Generation 1 Soundwave. I fucking love this thing. Even nowadays, it's a good fidget. I mean, I don't fidget with it a lot because it's 40 years old and I don't want to even take a chance of breaking it. Not that I think it will. Because again, this has held up for 40 years. But that has been my review of G1 Soundwave. And I will see you all in the next video. Peace.